Hi, welcome back. This is Jennifer Scrapping Kane. Today I'm sharing a double 8.5 by 11 layout. This is for the scrap room. I'm using flavors of the month. And this kit here is Coffee Shop. It is the one up in the left hand corner. And I'm going to show you the entire kit and what is included in the kit, including the embellishment kit and the paper add on. So I am using everything on this kit that I received. So here I have some photos of my son and myself. I will tell you a little bit more about those photos when I get started on the layout. This is the cut file that I cut on my silhouette. If you have a silhouette or a Cricut, you can cut it out. It does not come cut, but you do receive the digital cut file if you subscribe. So here I have a few ephemera pieces. I am going to use a few of the ephemera pieces, not all of them, but definitely a few of them get used on today's layout. And then I'm going to use mainly the sticker sheet, and I'm also going to use a stencil from my stash and ink. But I really love the sticker sheet, and I'm going to use a lot of the pieces off of there to build my clusters. I also use a lot of these little coffee cup circles. And then the stripe paper I love too. I love the other side of it too, but I use the stripe side. And then I use the navy blue side of that one. These are the two pieces of cardstock. I had one more piece in my stash from a previous kit, and I used the other one to cut the cut file. And then I'm also going to use the white cardstock as my background, but I'm going to ink it up and use a stencil. That flower paper is going to be used later in the month on another layout. I really love that flower. It's really pretty. And then here I'm going to get started on the layout. You can see I already backed the cut file just because that took quite a while. The pink that you see is actually ink. There's no pink paper in this collection, or at least not that we received. And I used ink to make that pink. Here I already inked up the coffee cup, and that was the cup file. So I cut it out and then inked it up, and then I backed it with a couple of the pattern papers. And here are the photos that I'm going to be using. I have three 3x4s and then one 4x6. And like I said, they are photos of my son and myself just playing around. He is 13 years old, but every once in a while he will come and try to sit on my lap or, give me a big hug. And he was a premature baby, so he was only a little less than 5 pounds, and he was really small, and he used to lay on my chest all the time. I have lots of photos of him laying on me. And so of course, he comes and he's like, well, I'm that little baby, see, I'm your baby, I can lay on you. And I'm like, dude, you are 150 pounds and almost as tall as me. You cannot lay on top of me anymore. And we laugh and giggle, and usually he does it anytime that I'm sitting, like in the living room drinking my coffee or, just trying to relax. And this happened to be early in the morning. I was drinking coffee and just kicking back. And he is like, I'm going to sit on your lap. I'm like, no, you're not. You're way too big. And we started laughing and playing around. And I took pictures and he let me. So you can see he's making silly faces and trying to really act up. And I'm like, I'm going to use the pictures. And he's like, fine, go ahead. So that was my opportunity to go ahead and use the photos. So here I have this coffee ring stencil. That is from, I don't remember the name of that stencil. I'm not even sure if it's still available. It is from my stash. And then the ink is Vintage Photo, and I'm using a little bit of Shimmer's paint to kind of splatter around darker places, but really I'm using the ink, the Vintage Photo, in that stencil to make a little bit of more coffee rings and just make a design in the background. And basically that's because I do not like white backgrounds. So if I can doctor up the white background in any way, I'm going to. Or I'm going to use pattern paper instead. But since I didn't have two pattern papers the same, and I really wanted the photos to be matted in pattern paper, I decided this was a good way to go about it. So that's what I did. And if you can see the pencil line, there is pencil lines in the background. That just helps me know where the pieces are going to go on the layout, the photos, and the cut file, so that I didn't cover up anything or waste any mixed media. So I didn't want to put it all down and then just cover it up with the photos or embellishments. So I traced around those before I did the mixed media part. And here I'm just adding a few more in because I just needed a couple more. That one there, I obviously did not pay attention where I put my circle because the one is almost covered up completely. So I just added another one. And then over here, I'm going to add another little ring. And that was, again, because most of it was covered up. And also I have an idea of like where the embellishments are going to kind of sort of go. So I also wanted to make sure that you could see the mixed media behind those. So here I have a couple of the tags. I have three of the tags. And then this little frame here is actually going to go in upside down. I only want the bottom part of it to peek out. And then two of the tags will be attached to the background. And then one of the tags will actually pull out, and I will be able to write a little bit of journaling on the back of that tag. And it's okay if my journaling isn't present on the front of the layout. That's not always important to me. Of course, it's important to tell the story behind the photos, but journaling is not something that I do as much as I once did. My older son's albums have a ton of journaling, and I love going back and reading that journaling. But I don't know. I just haven't journaled a whole lot on my younger son's layouts. And mainly because I get busy doing the design and then I forget, oh, it needs journaling spot. But usually I do tags or I will just write on the back of the layout. So it works. It still tells the story and the story is still told. So here I'm adding the cut files on and then I'm going to start embellishing with the stickers. And like I said, this one here is very heavy in the stickers and I added there's like a little coffee cup I added up there on the cut file right in the middle of the O. And then I'm going to add all these little circles all around. So I was trying to use them all, but I actually don't end up using them all, but I do use a lot of them. And there's only one little small piece of this paper actually left. It's actually a circle because I thought I was going to use a large circle behind the big photo, but then size wise, it just didn't work out since, again, I am scrapbooking 8.5 by 11. If you're doing 12 by 12, you would definitely be able to add it in behind the cut file if you wanted to, but for me, it just didn't work out that way. So that's what I have left of that paper. Other than that, all the circles are on this background. So, and I did ink up the circles before I put them down. So I'm just showing you the tag that it pulls out. And then the large photo is double matted, and then the little photos are just single matted along with white cardstock. And that just helps them pop with all the patterns going on. But I really hope you guys enjoyed today's layout. I definitely enjoy using the scrap room kits and how to. I will have at least one more layout using this collection later in the month. I hope you will join me then. Please check out the scrap room kits and pick up your kits. They do sell out sometimes, so it's better to subscribe and get a subscription. Bye!